Is it on? Ready?
Yes, we're rolling.
Okay, this is a home interview, Bluff Point, New York. It is the 29th of November, 2006, approximately 3:45 p.m. Interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth?
Jersey, January 21, 1931.
Okay. What was your educational background prior to entering service?
I had completed 3 years of college at Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I was very distressed because my grades were not very good. My athletic career had gone down the tubes after I broke my leg in my sophomore year. And during the summer I made up my mind that I needed to change my life. And so, on an impulse, and that's exactly what it was, I drove to York, Pennsylvania and joined the Marine Corps.
Okay.
But I did ultimately complete college after my 3-year tour of duty.
Okay. Why did you decide on the Marine Corps?
I needed something, someone, some organization that was going to restore some dignity and self-confidence, I would say, some self-esteem. And they did.
All right, where did you go for your basic?
Paris Island.
How long were you there?
My recollection is 10 weeks.
Okay. How would you describe your basic?
In your questionnaire, you asked me about people who I remember who had an influence on my life, and I can't think of that any Marine who goes through Paris Island can say anything but I remember my drill instructors so vividly and what they did. You feared them, but you admired and respected them. Mm-hmm. And they made you respect yourself. Yeah.
Now I noticed, I should have gone back to this, you were in the Navy Reserves before?
Yeah, I joined the Navy Reserve when I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to be weekly meetings and we got paid for them, but after, I don't recall, a couple of months I guess of doing that, I realized I couldn't play football, play basketball, run track, make decent grades, and devote weeks to the Navy Reserve. So I was discharged from the Navy Reserve in order to join the Marine Corps.
Okay. After Paris Island, did you receive any specialized training?
No. No, I went right to Camp Lejeune and Education Special Affairs, and I guess because of my own education compared with most recruits, they put me into a unit where I advised people about their education, how they could complete their high school education or continue their college education through USAFI, GED tests, and MCI courses. And I did that for about 10 months, and I was also in charge of athletic equipment. And guys would come in and they'd want fishing equipment or baseball gloves, softballs, and so on. And we could write the stuff off, so I would just give it out, and I had friends everywhere. So my friends would come to me and say, "Now we've got a place for you at Philadelphia Naval Supply Depot in Philadelphia. Would you like to go there?" And I thought, well, Nancy and I are married now, and we're enjoying our work, and we love living in North Carolina near the ocean. I guess not. And they came to me and said, "Well, we've got a spot for you in Hawaii. Would you like to go to Hawaii?" Well, Nancy couldn't go along, so I guess not. Then they came to me and said, "You're going to Japan for 14 months. After being married 9 months, off I went to Japan for 14 months. And obviously back then you couldn't take your wife with you.
Mm-hmm. When were you in Japan? What
1954 and early 1955. Yeah.
Prior to that point, did you receive any sort of promotion? Were you a corporal?
I think I was a corporal when I went. Yeah,
okay.
By that time I was a corporal. And then I made sergeant while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was your assignment in Japan?
Same thing, you know, but except I didn't have the athletic equipment anymore. But the real thing I'd like to talk about, because it made such an impact on me, was I was a teacher in a Japanese high school, Takata High School, way back in the mountains where no GIs ever got. Most of the GIs hung around the base, the areas right outside the base, the bars, for example. And they never did get to meet any real, authentic Japanese people. I did, because I taught in a high school. I went once a week. My job was primarily to teach pronunciation, because in fact, the students did have an English teacher, and were learning English, but their pronunciation was very poor, so that was my job. Plus, it was really a public relations job as well. And I just got to meet some very wonderful people who took me into their homes, took me to dinners, had some sake partners, and it was one of the most pleasant experiences I had. Here's a picture of me with the graduating class and the teachers.
If you hold it like this, Wayne can focus right in on it.
Okay, but this is a copy, so you can have that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, how were you accepted? I mean, here this is within 10 years after the war.
9 years after the war.
Yeah.
And I just finished a book on Hiroshima. And it was, in reflection now, why did those people treat me so well?
Got it?
You get it?
Yep.
Thank you.
After that time. And they did. I only recall one instance of somebody who, it wasn't personalized, he just waved at our ship as we were coming into the harbor, like, go on home, Americans. But I'm sure now that I look back on it, some of these people in that picture had relatives who were in Okinawa or Iwo Jima or wherever and were killed. People who, probably relatives in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, that may have been killed. Here's a letter, I don't think you'll be able to pick that up, Wayne, but here's a letter that I wrote to the students and teachers there, describing my feelings about my experience. Anything else on that?
Now, were you ever asked to any of the homes or?
Absolutely. Yeah. Served sukiyaki, given hot baths. And these again were homes in the mountains. Some of these people probably never saw a GI, except on well, they didn't even have television back then.
Then you wore your uniform all the time?
Oh yeah.
Now, can we keep this? Or?
Please, and
Okay,
I
thank
also
you.
have a story I wrote once. I was a columnist for the local paper for 4 years. I was the old grape stomper, and I wrote about how reflections on my experience over there, so you can have that too. I don't know if these are things you want.
Sure.
No, yes, they're definitely.
And then this whole scrapbook is about my experience in Japan too. You'll look through that then.
Now, how you found no problems with the people then at all, and you're always alone?
Oh yeah,
You only
yeah, just like the picture shows. You asked in your outline here for maybe humorous stories, and one was about a visit that I made to Takata High School, and we were always taken in a Jeep, and Jeep driver went along. And we were in the school, and it was after English class, and the teachers and I would gather, and the driver would gather in a room, and we'd have refreshments. I don't think we drank sake then, but we'd have tea. And when we came out, somebody had stolen the Jeep. Some of the older kids had taken the Jeep and taken it on a joyride and turned it over.
Oh.
And when they brought it back, the principal said, "Don't worry about it. This boy's father is very wealthy, and he'll take care of whatever the charges are." And came back the next week and said, "Well, I don't recall, it's like $75 maybe." And the principal said, "Oh, he's not that rich." Then on the very last visit that I had there, we decided to go in a helicopter because the kids had never seen a helicopter up close. And we took off, and I had never been in a helicopter before. We took off, and the pilot is going like this with a stick. And I thought to myself, they go through that every time they take one of these things up. And he got up maybe 100 feet or so, and he said, I'm not taking this thing out today. And he went down and we got another one. Those were two humorous experiences I had. Yeah.
Okay. How long did you teach at that school?
My recollection is that I started in February, and I taught all the way until I left. Yeah.
Now, what kind of duties did you have on base besides?
The same thing
doing-
that I did at Lejeune. I advised young men, there weren't any women at that point, young men on how they can get their high school equivalency certificate by taking the SOPI GED tests, and then the MCI courses as well.
Did you have to pull any type of guard duty or anything like that?
Occasionally, yeah, occasionally. And occasionally we'd be taken out on field trips just to keep our senses honed that we were Marines first, and then we were educational advisors. The other thing I did, excuse me,
No, that's okay.
the other thing I did when I was there, I was in an honor guard. That's what this picture is. This is myself in my honor guard
If you hold it
uniform.
again back,
Okay.
he can focus on it.
And this was an honor guard that greeted dignitaries when they came to the base. And two in particular that I recall, one was the Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Shepard. He came and inspected us, and the other one was Chesty Puller, who was the most decorated Marine in the history of the Marine Corps. So that was quite an honor for me to be selected for that.
Now, this was a time shortly after the services had been integrated. Did you have any problems, or did you advise blacks also?
No,
Were there
I
many
don't
in-
remember a single black.
Mhm.
No. No, not there. Or after I came back, I was at Quantico doing the same thing, and I don't remember a single black then.
Mhm.
No. I guess the Marine Corps wasn't integrated to that point or something.
Mhm.
Is that 1954, early 55?
50 was when Truman,
Yeah, they should have been. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So, okay.
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. I'm wrong. No, another interesting circumstance. Yeah, we were integrated. Our barracks were integrated. I just didn't remember as a educational advisor advising blacks. But when I think of it, sure, our barracks were integrated. We had blacks there. As a matter of fact, I guess it's just humorous. I don't know. One of the things I had to do by that time as a sergeant was drill the guys in our barracks. And I remembered very fondly the drill instructors at Paris Island and that cadence that they would count, which is something I think that Marines remember. Arr, 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 law, something like that. Well, I did this with our barracks troops, and the black guys laughed at me. And I just thinking about this today, I should have said, all right, if you can do it better than I can, get out here, you drill them. Sure, we had blacks.
Did you get to tour?
I tell you what, may I add something here before you ask the question? We didn't have homosexuals.
Okay.
And the reason I know that is because one was found in the barracks kissing another guy at night, and he was gone the next day. So that's changed as well.
Did you ever get to tour other parts of Japan where you saw devastation from the war? Or,
No,
so you basically stayed in the area where you were sent?
Nagoya was the closest city that I went to. Gifu and Nagoya, and there was none that I saw there.
Okay. After you left Japan, where did you go?
Back to Quantico, not back to Quantico, to Quantico, Virginia, for the last 6-7 months of my tour duty, advising young people again, advising Marines and Navy personnel. Yeah.
What were your officers like? for the most part?
I had never had a problem
Mm-hmm.
myself. I respected them, I admired them, and I did what they said, as any good Marine would do. And I can't remember a single one that I was ever angry with for any reason. They
How
were
about
good-
your
good
fellow
men.
soldiers, fellow Marines?
Same thing, especially the top sergeants, for example, the master sergeants, many of whom had by that time served had served in battle in Korea,
Mm-hmm.
as had my drill instructors too. And a man goes through something like Korea and comes out and is able to talk about it, although most of them have to be pushed to talk about it, like Jack. And you admire them and respect them. And you always wonder yourself what you would have done. I can't say that I regret never having been in battle, but I have often wondered how I would have reacted in battle.
Mm-hmm. I forget the question I was going to ask now.
I was just checking this out on the internet.
I know.
I have the UN Service Medal, the Korean Service Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, which everybody got, and the Good Conduct Medal. But I wondered why I got the UN Service Medal and the Korean Service Medal, because the ceasefire was in 1953 and I was there in '54.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned when I got on the internet is, I don't know that we still have a peace. We still don't have
No,
a peace
we
treaty.
never signed a treaty with them.
Right.
So.
There was some talk about it in 2003, but I don't think there's ever been one signed between North Korea and South Korea. And given what's going on right now, I don't think there will be.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get to see any entertainment like USO shows or Bob Hope? Or...
Nary a one. Nary a one. Movies are the only entertainment we got. No. May I tell you another story?
Sure.
That doesn't have anything to do with my experience in the Marine Corps, but has to do with my experience with Dwight David Eisenhower. In 1963, I was director of admissions at Franklin and Marshall College, the college that I graduated from. And our president was Keith Spaulding, and Keith Spaulding had worked with Eisenhower at Columbia University. So for graduation that year, Keith Spaulding invited Eisenhower to give the commencement address, and he accepted. By that time he was living in Gettysburg, which is my hometown. My duties that day were to see to it that General Eisenhower, and I don't understand why I think of him as General Eisenhower rather than President Eisenhower, but my duty was to make sure that he made all of his appointments. He landed in a helicopter in an open field on campus, and then he was driven to a reception, and then a luncheon, and then to the commencement exercise, and then finally would leave in the helicopter again. Well, I borrowed a brand new big black Lincoln to haul him around, and at the end of the day, when it was time for him to go, the weather had turned bad, and he couldn't take the helicopter back to Gettysburg. And President Spaulding asked me to drive him back to Gettysburg, thinking Westerdahl knows where it is and he's going to lose the former President of the United States on the way back. Well, I did that. It didn't bother me at all until he sat in the front seat with me. And I thought, what in the world am I going to talk to him about?
Oh my God.
I'm not a World War II historian. I'm not into politics. And the conversation never stopped. The whole way back to Gettysburg, an hour and a half I had with the former President of the United States and General of all the forces that went into Europe. And we talked about my experience in the Marine Corps. We talked about professional football. We talked about his interest in farming. And he was just so down to earth, so we were chums by the time we got back to the farm. And I call this the dumbest thing I ever did. We got back to the farm and he said, "Bruce, would you like to come in and have a drink?" And I said, "Sir, it's been a long day for you. I'm sure you're retired and that, I guess not," or something like that. A friend of mine offered to go with me, and he ended up in the back seat with the general's aide. And he regularly brings it up that I said no to an invitation to go and sit in General Eisenhower's living room with my feet up on his coffee table and having a martini or a Manhattan with him. But it was one of the best experiences, I guess, that I've ever had, and I thought you might enjoy that.
Yes, it's.
The chair over here.
You didn't ever see him again, huh?
No, no. The chair over here was the chair that he sat in during the commencement exercise.
Oh, is
Oh
it?
my God.
They borrowed our chairs for commencement. That is the chairs in the admissions office. And we marked that chair and had it in our office with a plaque on it. And when I left Franklin Marshall College, the staff stole it and gave it to me and replaced it with another chair. But that is the actual chair that he sat in, and it's one of our...
Amazing.
I remember what I was going to ask you. Did you develop any close friendships while you were...
No, and I don't understand that.
Mhm.
Except that I was married. I devoted just about every evening to writing a letter to Nancy, and she did the same. We still have those letters. She insists we've got to get rid of them before we move again, but I can't do it. But I wrote every day.
How about, did you ever keep in contact with any of the students from...
Yes, we wrote
Japan?
occasionally to each other for another year or two. Oh, and then Nancy was a teacher, elementary school teacher, and she sent a letter to the school and offered to start pen pals.
Pen pals.
And she had some folks going back and forth among her children and the kids in Takata. One thing that I've done, that picture that I showed you and I gave you, I've sent that to Takata High School, hoping that we could start a conversation on the internet about my experiences there and what's going on at the school now. But I never got a response. But they are on. There is an address for them on the internet.
Do you think there were any other stories that you remember that you want to relate?
A story about me on the way over to Japan. About the third day out, the colonel came to me and told me that I had been voted Marine of the Day for the previous day, and this was like, I think about 1,800 people on the ship. And I said, why? I didn't do anything yesterday. All I did was stay in bed. And I figured I was the only Marine on the whole ship that didn't get in trouble that day. That's how I got it. I got a cigarette lighter.
After you left the Marine Corps, did you you would be eligible to join the American Legion or anything?
I've been in the American Legion
American
ever
Legion?
since.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I've been tempted occasionally to start a Marine Corps group right here in Yates County, but I never got around to it. I meet a number of Marines occasionally. And I don't know what your service was or if you served, but the Marines are like a fraternity.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever go to any kind of reunions at all, or
No.
any division
No.
reunions? Okay.
No.
How do you think your time in the service changed or had an effect on your life?
Oh, I thought I mentioned that earlier. Again, I was just floating. I was just not doing well with my life. Doing poorly in school, doing poorly in athletics. I ran in the state finals in high school in the hurdles. And in my junior year at Franklin Marshall College, I ran the hurdles and came in last. I put on so much weight and I'd just been so out of shape. And I was just disgusted with myself. And the Marine Corps, again, gave me some self-esteem that I didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And I still feel that. Having gone through boot camp and that experience, I still feel that was a very important part of my life, even though it turned out that I was away from Nancy for 9 months, 14 months of my life. Yeah,
Now, did you have any other photographs you wanted to show us?
I should mention, because I just thought of it, and that is we started married life in Swansboro, North Carolina, where I was stationed at Jacksonville, in Camp Lejeune. And interestingly, our whole family goes back to Emerald Isle, which is a stone's throw from Camp Lejeune. We go back every other year. The last time we went, there were 16 of us, I guess. And my grandkids all love Swansboro and love the shore there. So the roots that we had in North Carolina, that tradition of finding joy in that part of the country continues and will continue, I'm sure. We have
Now, you were in the Marine Corps when you were married. Was it a Marine Corps marriage or a wedding, or
No.
you did a, okay.
No. No. My daughter and son-in-law had a Marine Corps. He was a Marine. And this is the son of Jack Albertson,
Mm-hmm.
who I mentioned at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
No, there weren't any other Marines present. I was in my Marine Corps uniform,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in dress blues, yeah.
Now, do you have any other photographs you want to show us?
Photograph of that honor group, Marine. I don't know if you can get
Oh, yes.
Yes,
that'll show up.
you can focus right in on it. Now, where are you in that? Do you know?
Oh, I have
I'm not
no
sure.
idea.
Okay.
No, but I have another one of myself.
Mhm.
All right, Wayne?
Yep, got it.
Got it? And here's one of just me in my outfit.
Okay, yep, we got that one.
Oh, we did.
Yep.
Here's a little book on the ship that I sailed over on. The Nelson M. Walker. This is where I was Marine of the Day on board that ship. You can take that along. I don't care about it
Oh,
anymore.
okay. Well, thank you very much.
And then an old leather neck. This is from August of 1954. This is a souvenir edition for those of us who were stationed in Japan.
Okay.
I think I'd repeat. I just admire the Japanese and the way they treated me, considering what had happened to that whole
Mhm.
country
Yeah.
just 9 years before.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Is that it?
Yes.